Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting Tuesday, September 24th. Our meeting is being recorded and live on Channel 18. I would like to have Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I'd like a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion of the approval of following Monday, August 27th, regular session, and Tuesday, September 11th, regular session and executive sessions.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. 6:30, public comment. Ernie Barrows? Is there an Ernie Barrows?
Yes.
Need you to come up to the mic.
Ernie Barrows. I live at 201 Ashumet Road in Mashpee, and I'm here concerning the pickleball park that they put in. Also the dog park, because now that has relevance too. But I didn't make it to that town meeting that you all voted on, or the town voted on, that you brought up down there, and I just wanted to clarify a couple of things before we get started. In this article that you did right here, Article number 5. You were all there, so I'm sure you're aware of it. Can you point out right there where it tells me
This
you're
is,
approving the park to get built?
Mr. Barrows, this is public comment.
You're going to have to explain.
Yeah, it's leading to this real quickly, and I'll go as quickly as I can.
Public comment is you speak, we do not speak. We take what you say under advisement,
Okay,
okay?
then I'll make this as good as I can for
Okay?
that. The pickleball park is not a good thing down there. It's caused excessive noise, excessive traffic. There's been excessive trash on that road ever since that and the dog park was put in. But the pickleball park, my main concern, it is excessively loud. And I've complained to been down the town hall on several different occasions. I've been to the police department. I've tried just about every avenue that I could to get it stopped because of the noise, or to even control it of any sort. And it doesn't seem to be going anywhere with that. There's nothing anybody can do at the moment. My concern now is for me and my neighbors that are all down there in the abutters. As far as I can tell, there was not one survey done by the town or anybody on how it was going to affect us down there. There was nothing done. I didn't even get a letter. Neither did anybody else or any of the neighbors down there of that park being put in and how it was going to affect us. Now, anything else that was ever done in this town, it seems to me there's always a certified letter when anything is done on town property. Am I correct? If there's going to be no comment on that, then fine. But there were other things that were done in this town. Everybody had to get a signature and everybody had a say in it. We weren't given any say in what went down there. Not one person came down from any part of the town or any other entity to speak of that were in favor of this park to see how it was going to affect anybody or the abutting neighbors or anything down there, including the environment. But right now, that noise is so loud that I don't have any peace in my yard, nor does anybody else down there. And the people that go to that park really don't care. I really need that park closed down as soon as possible. And so do the neighbors, we all agree. I have the signatures of all the neighbors right there and the petition that they signed right here in front of me. If you'd like to see it, I'd be glad to give
Yeah,
it to you.
want to give it to the
You can
secretary?
leave it with our
I'm
secretary.
going to need it back by the end of this meeting when I leave, too. If you want to
Okay,
make
then
copies of
make
it,
a
you're more
copy.
than welcome. I've lived down there for 20 years. I've owned the property for 22. I was the first house on that street, other than the condos. So I've been there the longest to know what that place was like before anything else was there. It was great. That's why I bought the property. It was peaceful. That's what I wanted. I busted my butt all my life to get to that point, to do that, to provide a home for my family and a peaceful place for me. And right now, it's already in jeopardy. That park is so loud. I can't sit on my deck and have coffee in the morning. And there was one instance where they even went in there before 7:30 and started playing that. And I don't know if any of you were familiar with pickleball before you put this in, but obviously nobody did any research on this to see how loud it actually is. Well, you really don't have to now because I got all the evidence you need, except it's after the fact and this park is in and it's still going. I'm just I really feel strongly about right now. We close down that park as of tomorrow until we can get some of this issue straightened out, or all of them, and at least give all of us down that road a voice, because you really haven't given to us yet. And I think as taxpayers that pay your salary and everybody else's salary, we should have a voice. I thought you guys were doing that for us, but I don't know what happened. But right now, I'd really like that park and the dog park closed down, because now that you've opened up that other park, all the noises from those dogs echo, and it doesn't affect everybody else to the extent that it does me. They get the same noise, but it's a lot louder because that park goes down and comes around like that. And there's only one small piece of property in between my property and that park. And I'd really request that you close that park down as of tomorrow, and the dog park, till we can address all of these issues and find a nice solution, or any solution that's better than this, and keep it closed, both of them, until we do, which should have been done long before that park was built. And I have no idea who approved that park to be built, because on this article that you put in, that's only for the funding. And in that article, one of the things it says, subject to permitting. And that is any permit, correct? That I'm aware of that has to do with that. And one of them was the MISA checklist, which was never done for the dog park or the regular park, that pickleball park. Any of you familiar with what that is?
We do not speak at public comment,
Okay.
Mr. Barrows.
I'm sorry, you said that before.
You say your piece.
But that's
and
the
then-
Massachusetts Endangered Species Act, which the box turtle is a protected species. And every one of my neighbors, at one time or another, in the past 3 or 4 months, has picked up one of those turtles and helped it cross the road on several different occasions. Me, I have pictures of the turtles digging up my lawn because they're looking for food. And I've lived there for 20 years. And I've only had that happen once in 20 years. And it came from the other side of the road. not the side where the pickleball park is. But what I'm asking you tonight, respectfully, if you would, as, you know, representatives of us, the people that live down there and everybody else in this town, to shut those parks down tomorrow, ASAP, until we can get all of this situation taken care of.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, 6:35, Town Planner. Good evening.
Good evening, Select. All right. It's been a long time coming for this presentation. We've been talking about it for a little while and finally on an agenda. So thank you for having me again. I'm introducing to you tonight a zoning portal developed with the Cape Cod Commission and Open Counter, which is essentially a web-based tool that simplifies the zoning process and permitting processes for the new or expanding business owner. Maybe your homeowner wants to expand their house. This provides you a clear pathway, at least some clarity in what are often complicated regulations. So I wanted to show you what we did tonight and talk about some of the benefits to the user and the back-end benefits to us as leaders in the town. And just to give you a little bit of background about how this project came to be, I got a phone call from the commission, who, along with Mashpee, Barnstable, and Yarmouth, 3 contiguous towns, to do a pilot project. I quickly wanted to jump in on it. In my first job in Central Falls, developed Open Counter, an Open Counter platform in its early stages of development, and I think the tool's gotten better. I was happy to kind of take this one from the beginning to the end with their help. It's been pretty great. And it's further highlighted the immense hurdles that I think our local economy faces given the convoluted nature of our zoning bylaw. And I'll talk a little bit about the back-end benefits here and how I plan to use the data we collect. But I'm just going to jump into the technical aspects of the portal now. So if you'll take a look at the screen, I have this open here. The URL is mashpee.opencounter.com. It is live, but I am anticipating after this presentation doing some marketing of the tool and making sure that it's readily available to business owners and anyone who's seeking to do business in Mashpee. But you'd go to the URL and simply click Start. This is meant to be user-friendly and understandable for even those with limited computer skills. You'll see here you want to type in a project type, and project type would be the use of your business. When maybe you're selling baby clothes, or you want to have a food truck, or you're operating a farm, whatever it might be, it will take the layman's term of the business owner. In this case, we could say, Selectmen, Sherman, do you have a use you could give to me?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. We'll enter ice cream into the search, and this will translate ice cream into the varying uses that are actually listed in our use table. So this is what it pulls up: drive-in, eating places, and similar. Eating places serve food and beverages to be consumed within the building. So at this point, the user would make the determination based on the description of their business and how they'd like to move forward. In this case, we can select drive-in, eating places, and similar, just because it's the top one, just to show the functionality. And this is where things get interesting. We'll go hit next again. This is going to pull up GIS, and it's going to show you here in the bottom corner is the key. Green parcels would, or if the parcels were green, it would be permitted use as of right, simple approval. You would not have to go before a board or a commission to get a permit or justify the use beyond what is allowed by zoning. That yellowish color is a conditional use. That means you would require a special permit or some level of town review and licensure permitting prior to opening your doors and getting an occupancy permit. And then gray is prohibited. Very frequently in Mashpee, we have very gray and very yellow maps. Very seldom do we have green. So Open Counter provides...
May I ask one quick
Yes, sir.
question? Drive-ins, I thought were only allowed in Mashpee in what the commercial zone, what do they call that? the activities are?
So the way, this also has our overlay districts built into it too. So if I'll go through this a little bit further and it'll
The only
highlight.
reason I'm asking is that, according to what I know right now, is incorrect.
So drive-in eating place, like a drive-in eating place, like a drive-through.
Even windows I'm talking about.
So those are not allowed in the Mashpee Center overlay district. But they're allowed, like for example, we have
In the, like Mashpee Commons could have it.
well, anywhere else in town that operates outside of the Mashpee Center overlay district.
Oh, totally.
So that, the Mashpee Center overlay district kind of goes from here up Great Neck North and is the historic district as well. So Main Street and up Great Neck North a little bit. But as I click through this further, you'll see how the the overlay districts will be identified in the portal.
Okay.
So we want to dig a little deeper here. So we're looking for an ice cream shop. We'll zoom in. Again, notice the gray and the yellow. The only options you have here are what is a conditional use. This is the C1 district. Mashpee Commons would be here. This is the Rotary.
Okay, that's,
We can randomly select a parcel here. We'll go with this one.
okay, that's.
Say you've identified this is where you want to operate. You know you want to make an offer on this and you don't know how to permit. You select it and this provides you a little bit of clarity. This is 495 Falmouth Road. We did a little bit of a deeper parse out of information here so you know exactly where you need to go. Cape Cod's unique in that we do have the Cape Cod Commission, so if you were going to build a building greater than 10,000 square feet, that has different permitting implications. So here we ask that first question, are you going to build greater than 10,000? We say yes. That changes it to planning board approval following Cape Cod Commission development of regional impact. We say no, and it tells us we need a special permit from the Board of Appeals. So say we do want to build a 5,000 square foot building of this particular use, we'll continue on to next. So this area gives you all of the information you parsed out through that, the querying of the program. Sure. And this is helpful for me and the building commissioner because we spend a lot of time answering moderately menial questions, and that's our job. We're happy to do it. But this allows someone to have a document that we can refer to and immediately do the work. It cuts out all of that extra time that needs to be taken to get someone to that next step because they've already done it themselves. And then lastly, so we can get someone down the road there. But the best part I think about this that I'm excited about is the collection of the data. This will track every search, every time someone clicks a parcel, every use they identify. So we can start seeing if there's a trend in a certain area, trend in a certain district, and if we're zoned for it, and if we're not zoned for it, how we can improve it, and hopefully start to understand where some of where our regulations are more complicated, how they can become simpler, and have the data to support those claims and wishes. So this is a user-friendly platform for anyone seeking to own a business, start a business, grow a business. And it's designed for the user, but the back-end value I think is really great. I get this on my end. I'm going to open an image. Every week I get these emails. I'm an administrator on the page, so this has some random algorithm. I don't understand it completely, but I could speak with the developers about how they calculate things like time saved. It breaks out in a chart the uses that people have searched for and in what zoning districts, and I can go through that information and glean something of value from it. So my hope is that we can make this well known to folks in Mashpee, folks seeking to move to Mashpee, businesses that exist or want to come. Because in reality, when we look at our map as compared to other open counters, for example, we place a lot of discretion in the permitting process for things like a barbershop or something that is not necessarily of significant neighborhood impact.
Now, what does it cost, Evan, to subscribe? So
we were lucky enough to participate in the pilot program.
Right.
So that was, the development of the platform was free, and we have this platform for 1 year. If we, so if the value is demonstrated, it would be $5,000 annually for a subscription. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So how does it, can you implement like the permitting and things like that along, is that like the next phase
I believe
plan,
Open
or-
Counter is building in a special, or a permitting software into their capability, but this is Dave Sullivan. He's helped me with this project. I'm not certain about what Open Counter is doing there. This is not designed for permitting, but they may be doing that. I think they are.
Yeah, so Open Counter, they started with the zoning portal, which is their first initial product. They've been working on doing a residential and a business portal, which will walk you through the permitting steps. And now they also have a special event as well. So I believe the next step is eventually they will be looking at probably doing some sort of full-on permitting, but they have not done that as of yet. But what this is more for is to complement your permitting. So if somebody comes to town, wants to look at a parcel, wants to know what could be possible with this parcel, this is a tool where they'd be able to look at it so they could know that this would be the right choice for them. And then we're also talking with Evan and the other communities about building a landing page where this would sit, where you could then direct them to your permitting software as well. So we kind of see this as the first step to get people in the door to understand what can be done with their property.
I think it's great. I mean, I think, you know, getting to that next step with the permitting, because I know there's been a lot of cry from the Cape Cod Home Builders Association to improve the permitting process and kind of streamline
Definitely.
some of the permitting.
Having worked in economic development in the past, I think the biggest issue I dealt with most frequently was new business owners not coming in to see us sooner. And, you know, they'd get in a world of trouble just because of a simple regulatory thing they didn't catch in the beginning. So this provides a direct interface with us, kind of an, you know, it's like an earlier intervention. And even if they don't come in, they can directly reach us through the platform with specific questions about a specific parcel with real information we can use. And I think that's really valuable.
That's great.
Now, you will highlight this on our town website?
Certainly. My intention is to build out this landing page, and you know, EDIC could live in EDIC,
Well, yes,
building
definitely.
building department, planning department, and maybe talk with the chamber about getting the word out there in some type of marketing campaign.
Because if anybody wants to do a business, you know, and they search different towns,
Absolutely.
if they put in Mashpee and this pops up, and they can see what's available. And
Who and when will this be updated?
So if this town meeting, we had zoning changes, and that would require amendments to the bylaw or
Yep.
the zoning map, that would be done, I think the turnaround time is something like 3 weeks, or Matt, what
2 to
said?
3 weeks, yeah.
And that would be through the period of the program, which is, I think, September 1st was when it,
Yeah, so.
That's very impressive,
so
because
one-
one of the
one is
problems
September
I've seen is especially with the internet stuff, someone will put on a great program, and then 6 months later, there's 6 months behind in there.
this is meant to be updated with relative speed and be quite reactionary.
That's part of the 5,000 is not only the hosting subscription of the website, but also any maintenance. So you have a bylaw change with your zoning, they'll update it accordingly.
Okay,
That's great.
very good.
So let
Anybody?
me ask you this, Kevin. So for a person interested in bringing a business into this community, goes online and puts this together, and they have a list of questions that they've answered or in parked. If they called you, could you look at what they've done and pull it up and keep them out of trouble early, just by looking at what they're doing and what they're looking for?
This gives me enough information to do that in significantly less time than I would before, which is, I think, the real value. It's if they provided me that document, I wouldn't need to find a parcel ID, so then I can go to the assessor's database and then pull the information about the building.
Right.
It's all there, so I can access it much faster. And beyond that, I could tell them things immediately.
Okay.
If it's in a certain district or on a certain street, I know things about that street that would say, that's a red flag, why don't you check out another neighborhood?
Right, that's what I'm looking for, somewhat of an early intervention instead of
Exactly.
a little bit of direction.
The sooner anyone seeking to open a business comes in to speak with the town planner or the building commissioner, the much better their permitting process will go, whether they're more simplified or not. Early intervention is good with opening business.
Very good. Andrew? John, any questions?
No, it seems anything to make it easier for the customer coming up, and especially in zoning.
I would
How
encourage.
many times have you heard someone, or anyone here has heard someone that's halfway through their whole thing and someone says, oh, that's not a permitted use.
Well, yeah, when we were developing this, I had to read
They
so many
haven't
of those
happened
paragraphs
to
out
us
loud
right
many
now.
times just to make sure I was understanding what I was reading. It's complicated, and for someone who doesn't live in this, it's
Now, do you
You
need
get
a
scared.
vote to implement the program? From the board?
I'm just looking for support, because it is going
Okay.
to be adding $5,000 as far as the...
Like,
When the year,
operating
after the year?
let me ask you a question. Would this, your committee,
I think this would fall under the EDIC.
which also has its own funding, I wonder if
Exactly.
they'd,
Exactly.
It'd be better.
I figured
I
you'd
think
like
so.
that idea.
I figured you would too.
And I think that way you get someone overseeing
Right.
it too.
I have a meeting tomorrow night, and I had told Evan that I was going to give the committee the information and then have Evan come in to the following meeting to bring it up, okay?
And if for some reason they don't like it or not, come right back to us, because I think this board
I
likes
think
it.
so.
we can,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
think-
encourage you to play around. We use one ice cream use. You can see what's going on the warrant that for this October. Play around with it, see how you like it, and if there's something that you identify that maybe is questionable, we're always trying to make this better. So
No, I think
let
it
us know.
sounds like a great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And since your budget is due on Friday, include it, Evan.
Evan? Yeah, did you hear- I don't think he heard you.
Did you hear that one?
There you go. Okay, communications and correspondence. We have some communications from our town manager.
Yes, I just wanted to make the board aware that I do have correspondence from Chairman Sept Cromwell from the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, and he did request specifically some assistance down in Washington. I want to, consistent with our previous dialogue, just wanted to announce that with the board's authorization, I am prepared to go to Washington again for the purposes of continuing the House bill that's pending with the amendment that has been previously discussed. I have been in touch with Washington Council. I have been in touch with local council, and we're all in agreement in terms of the conditions. The only issue that I have right now is I don't have a specific date, but it's imminent. But I do not have a specific date. And as soon as I do, you'll be the first to know.
Are you looking to time your
Statement going to be
visit?
released tomorrow.
And thank you. There will be, for the press that's here, there will be a statement released tomorrow by the chair.
Are you looking to time your visit with any of the discussions that'll take place in Washington, or are you just going before they take place?
I'm going to elaborate more at the appropriate time, but there could be a discussion with the chair of a committee.
Okay, thank you, Rodney.
Do we need to
Perfect.
do we need to make a vote to
No,
Approval?
don't need a vote.
no? Okay.
Unless there's any objection.
Question that you don't want to...
We've already
objection.
voted,
Yeah.
we've already voted the,
I think this was a
Not an open session, though.
great move.
We didn't vote in open
Yeah.
session, right? Okay.
So we're all set. New business. Discussion and approval of amendment to the Board of Selectmen Policy Number 053, ambulance billing.
Make a motion to approve the revised ambulance billing policy as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
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 Thank you. A report on wastewater funding meeting with our Finance Director, Don Thayer.
Good evening.
Hi, Dawn.
Last week I attended, Sandwich held a public forum regarding wastewater funding, an idea that they have. The assistant town manager, myself, and the treasurer attended. And what Sandwich is proposing to fund their wastewater project is called a Municipal Water Infrastructure Investment Fund. And what it is, it's basically a special revenue fund exactly like the CPA. And it's a property tax surcharge up to 3%. You can decide less than 3 or more than 3. And that money would go directly into this fund and build up just like the community preservation funding does. To approve it, they have to go through the same exact process as we did with the Community Preservation Act. You have to have it voted at town meeting, and then you also have to have a ballot vote. The town of Sandwich is proposing a 2% surcharge for this fund, and they'd like to, what they're proposing to the taxpayers is to lower the Community Preservation Act, which is currently 3% collection, or surcharge, excuse me, to 2%. So the CPA would go to 2%. This would be another 2% surcharge. The overall increase would be about a 1% increase.
By doing that, Don, how much money are they plan on putting into that fund by doing that?
They had stated, let's see. I think they had said about 1.4. It was close to what we collect, 1.4. Well, actually, that is the CPA. It would be about half of that, so about $1 million, you know, or 900,000, I think, is what we came up with. And it's very similar to, you know, the CPA that they collect. CPA tax is similar to what we have. So that's what they're proposing. It's just for their phase 1. They're only proposing doing their phase 1, which is an $86 million project.
How much, excuse me?
86 million.
86?
86 million, yes, is their phase 1. And they're hoping that what they do for phase 1 will eliminate the need for phase 2 and phase 3. So,
What are your thoughts on how they're...
I think it's definitely something that probably the taxpayers, it would be more palatable to the taxpayers. I think it's a wise idea to maybe not ask to eliminate the CPA. I'm not sure people are ready for that, but to lower it. Sandwich did state that they cannot lower their CPA tax or surcharge any lower than 2%, just because they have debt that is they're obligated to pay, and they can't go any lower than that. So that's why they're presenting 2%.
Any questions for Dawn?
Just, I know you've looked at this enough recently that just you probably understand it better than all of us here. Do you think this is something that would work for the town of Mashpee as well? Similar, and I know we also have discussed stepping out of the Community Preservation Act in 2020. So which would be 3% that we could reduce from and redirect.
Sandwich, their wastewater issues are very different from the town of Mashpee. They have one section of town, which is South Sandwich, that is really their issue. In the end, they are not proposing to sewer the entire town. They said that. That is not their plan. That is not what they're proposing. They are not trying to get rid of every Title V septic system. They're trying to keep them as many as they can to control the costs. What they are proposing in phase 1, this would be wastewater treatment facilities. All the schools need to be either upgraded or replace their treatment facilities. It would be a treatment facility at the industrial park and the marina, I believe. And, excuse me? Schools. And the schools. So it's very different. And then in the end, they said they're only going to have about 20 to 25% of their households that will be sewered. So,
So it reduces the amount of the money spent on the collection system.
yeah, so, and the operations, from what their comprehensive plan stated, the way they explained it as well was, this just isn't wastewater. They're not just looking at wastewater. It's also, they are looking at water quality and expansion of public municipal water, because they have a lot of areas that still need municipal water. That was a significant amount of money, a significant portion of that 86 million. It was like 14.9 million to expand their municipal water. And then another piece to it is stormwater, they called this, portion of it, and it was doing initiatives to prevent runoff and that kind of thing, education, that kind of, those kind of items. So their 86 million isn't just wastewater.
So basically what you're saying is the comparison to what needs to be done, there is no comparison, but the way of funding it is the way we should at least take a look at.
Yes, that exactly. It's hard to do a comparison, to say we're like Sandwich. I can't tell you that. But if you want to look at it as a potential source of funding, it definitely is something you could look at. And that would be after the, well, I mean, you can accept it at any point, but if you wanted to do anything with the CPA, you know that it would be after the fiscal year 2020.
Don, just if I remember correctly, their fund, though, is not going to fund the full 86. They're depending on some assumptions of fee and the 25% that you had talked about. Also, I think they didn't talk about how the cost of hooking it up and how much that was going to be wasn't included in that.
Yeah, we were asking them a little bit more after, and it will cost the homeowner, they're figuring about $10,000 to hook up. So they need to take into consideration how that is going to occur, whether they're going to do betterments or something to that nature. But that would be, and it's, again, it's only 20 to 25% of the town that would be funding that.
It's in the delicate areas that they want to do.
Correct, yep.
That's what it is.
I mean, our program, the only town that said they want to sewer the whole town is Chatham, and they're never gonna. So, we're only doing, at worst, hopefully half the town. I mean, I think.
And we already have some pre-existing treatment plants that probably be put in.
We do. I think the value, and I'm glad that they both went. I think the value in this is show that, there's different ways to think about funding this. It's not just property tax, or that offsets some existing fees or taxes. And, I think it's a good exercise that Sandwich went through, and some of our other neighbors have gone through, to look at how do you do this? And, then you plug in, well, we're different this way and that way, and what do we want to accomplish and what the cost is. But I think the value in the discussion is in looking at different things we can do to fund it. It's a different world in a lot of ways than when 2 or 3 years ago when the prior analyses were done. And what I'd like to suggest is that as a board, we give the manager and the staff and the finance team some direction that we'd like to see a finance plan developed that evaluates some of the stuff Sandwich is doing, some other scenarios that are out there, makes different assumptions. You can be really conservative, that there's going to be no debt forgiveness. You can be less forgiving or less conservative and say that there is going to be some, and just sort of see what the options are, come back to us and say, here's your choices. It might be 9 more spreadsheets. They'd look different.
I just respectfully request that you give me plenty of time to do that.
All right,
I'm
so I'm prepared to make a motion. This is in line. This is just one of the things that was in the memo that I sent back. But I'd like to make a motion. We direct our staff to develop, with the necessary support of any outside help, if Don and the team needs it, a finance plan by January 1st of this year that uses or assesses all the available sources of revenue, including but not limited to local option hotel motel tax and short-term rental taxes, the use of betterments, establishments of rates and charges for users of the sewer system, a 3% infrastructure surcharge that's authorized by state law, 0% SRF loans, principal forgiveness from 0 to 25% authorized under current state law, the use of a state earmark of $3.25 million that was in the economic bond bill for wastewater infrastructure in Mashpee, and expiring debt service to evaluate a plan that reduces the greatest extent possible the required debt exclusion for the funding. And then there were a couple different scenarios, and I would suggest, that were in here that I don't need to read, that any others that the financial team thinks are realistic and ought to be evaluated.
Is this to coincide with the three scenarios that you had?
Yeah, and whatever else from what you've seen and what you've heard, those are not the be-all and end-all. You can make it 3, you can make it 9. I think the more we have to look at, the better off we are, and that we just give you guys 3 months. If you need more, take more.
Is that time frame tight?
I think it is.
I was thinking the same thing, it sounds like
I
it.
think that's really tight.
March
1st?
March
not a
1st?
problem.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're going to
I
be going
just
into
wanna get
budgets
started.
as well.
Right.
I'm willing to wait for it as long as we get started.
Right. And
I
that's-
would work 24 hours, but.
March 1st.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Is that your motion?
That's fine, that's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
March 1st.
From March 1st.
Yeah.
March 1st.
Yep.
And if it's taking too long, it's more than you think, come back and we'll give you more time.
No, well, that's
I just want to get it started.
One of the things we just wanted to ask as well as we started to look over the 3 scenarios, making some assumptions. We have a lot of questions about certain things. Would the board like us to present questions to the town manager? It's just, we get to a point where we're going down a path and then we have a
roadblock.
roadblock.
Sure.
And we're saying, okay, well, what do we want to assume? We could assume
that
this,
would be
this,
great.
this,
I
this.
think,
I would
think
further-
what you should do is have an open door to the Board of Selectmen to go on the agenda when you have
come to that
questions.
road.
But I'd also like to suggest and clarify the motion, that what we'd like you to model is just the first phase, the construction of, the design, engineering, permitting, construction of the site treatment plant that's proposed at the transfer station and the disposal. I just let's take the first bite that we can envision, first 5 years that are in the wastewater plant, which really focuses on that facility up there, and maybe a little bit of design for the west side of town, contemplating going to the base. But no construction is in that first 5-year block in our town-approved CWMP, and that's what you look at. What's it take? And that's about a $34 million project.
Right.
Based on some adjustments that GHD provided to us to cover the time.
I'd like an open door so they can
Absolutely.
come.
No question.
Absolutely, I'm just saying.
Because what I'm afraid of is he'll get 2 months down the road and finally get into us, or it gets to us, and we say, hey, we didn't want that.
No, but all I'm suggesting for everybody to understand sort of the first step is that we're just looking at the first 5-year piece. We're not saying model the 50-year plan
no,
and
no,
choke on
we were just looking at
$250
the
million
34 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this discrete project that gets us through the first 5 years.
And come to us at any time you
Absolutely.
need to.
Yeah, like I said, the finance team has been rolling around a few things, and there are, it's just going to help us in our direction. Okay, do you want us to assume this? We can move forward with that. If you say,
think
no,
that's great.
absolutely not, we can go in the other direction.
I just think it's great that we're talking
We
about
have to
it.
set aside 15 minutes every meeting. It's worth
That's
every
worth it.
minute.
I would
No
agree.
question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Open door. And I think the timing on this is perfect because I know that you've been really getting into the financing and by attending Sandwich and you're more in tune with it. You might as well keep this going and, well, it's fresh on your mind.
Yep.
And that's
Okay,
great.
I have a motion and a second. John?
Yes.
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 Thank you
Great, thank
very
you all.
much.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And everybody else who's participated in this.
Okay.
Kathy?
Discussion of stop signs at Donna's Lane and Great Neck Road South.
The briefing that I want to give the board tonight is that we've had a lady approach us from Windchime, and she has expressed some legitimate concerns relative to the intersection. People coming into Windchime, leaving Windchime, trying to get across over to Donna's, people from Donna's trying to get over to Windchime, people in the crosswalk that are trying to go from the Roach Brothers side over to Wind Chime, and a vehicle will be stopped on Great Neck Road South, and somebody will be flying down on the right side and go around them, and in the process could potentially clip a pedestrian. I'm not an engineer, and I know that putting a four-way stop at that particular intersection may not be consistent with what an engineer would recommend based on typical standards. What I'm trying to find out from the board is whether or not you want us to take a look at this, do
A study?
a traffic study, and exactly what this survey would involve. I would probably defer to the DPW director and try to get some information. But I think what I'm looking for is some direction, some guidance from the board, because according to town council, who I've already checked with, if you wish to erect a stop sign at the intersection of Great Neck Road South and Donna's, assuming it's a public way, which it is within your authority to do so after following certain procedures. You don't have to necessarily go through.
Am I misremembering when Laurentide got permitted, wasn't there talk about a light?
Yeah, you should see.
Well, if you go down Great Neck Road
Confusing.
South, there is I guess, a flashing light.
There is a light.
Flashing beacon.
Nobody
And-
knows what it is.
No,
And- and-
Wasn't there talk about?
yeah, they put this in.
Going in?
I'm trying to, I don't know if I can even explain it, because I had never seen one before.
Right.
There's a pole on either side of the intersection. They can be pushed like a pedestrian.
Pedestrians, yeah.
But all that goes on is the top of that pole, there's a yellow flashing
Okay,
light.
great.
That's what I mean. It says caution.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. People, if someone stops, someone's coming right around them, and
Right,
gonna-
that's always been a problem there. But
Yeah.
not only that, I've seen people come out or go across, they push the button, like, people are gonna stop automatically because they push
Right.
the button, and they walk into the street, and you wonder how nobody has been hit there.
I heard about the four-way stoplight, and I'm not an engineer either, but all I could think of is what we did with the speed bump thing, is could we put a four-way stop sign in there for a period of months on a trial?
Oh, to see.
How about, I'd be happy to make a motion that we ask the town manager, with the guidance from DPW, to evaluate four-way stoplight, and other traffic calming measures. You know, whether you just raise that platform so people have to slow down in order to get over it.
Now, are we going to have this done by a professional?
Have them come back with a proposal. If the question is, are we interested? I'd like to have
Yeah.
a signal that we're interested.
I think we are.
Come back
No
and tell us,
question.
come back and tell us what it would take, but I wouldn't
Right.
just limit it to four-way stop. I'd look at a light and traffic
I'll look
calming.
at all
Exactly.
the alternatives and
Alternatives.
report back to you.
Yeah.
It's just,
All right.
I just wanted to make sure
Oh,
that you
no
didn't
question.
stand.
If you need a town
Yeah.
meeting article in the spring to fund it,
Yes.
we'll deal with it then.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
great.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't need a vote? No, oh,
I'm good.
okay,
Fine.
okay, good. Okay, Mashpee Stormwater Management Program. Catherine.
Don's gonna pay for it.
Good evening. So, here tonight, we'll have a very brief PowerPoint presentation, but as you should have received, we are in the process of submitting our notice of intent to EPA and DEP This is part of the Small Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System General Permit. The original permit was received back in 2003. Over the last several years, EPA has been working on revising the requirements, and they finally did that. It was released this summer, and we're required to submit our notice of intent by October 1st. As part of that process, we're required to hold a public hearing, and so we're taking the opportunity to use you as the forum for that hearing. So I'm going to turn it over to Gabrielle Belfit, who's here from Ty and Bond.
Thank you so much for your time. You received a handout. We did a summary of Mashpee Stormwater Program. Sorry. Sorry about that. My voice is usually so loud, people can hear me anyway, but I know you're recording this. This summary of Mashpee Stormwater Program includes EPA's highlights of the 6 minimum control measures, and provides some specific information here about what Mashpee is doing to implement stormwater protection, and some costs, and what the program is going to look like in the first year. I've just got a few quick slides here, kind of walk you through a little bit of the background. Let me try, not that, let me try. Are we launched? Slideshow. We'll try that. That probably will work better. All right, there we go. So just real quickly, everyone is familiar with the definition of stormwater, but just to be clear, it's the rainwater falling on both paved streets, lawns, parking lots, and sidewalks that has a potential to become polluted as it comes into contact with various contaminants that might be lying on the ground. Trash, oil, fertilizer, sand, and sediments are all potential contaminants. And as the water is running over land, it picks up these contaminants, and either can be discharged directly to groundwater, as is typically done on the Cape, but also can be discharged to stormwater. And stormwater is, wastewater is the big pollutant, and stormwater is the other 40% of pollutants to surface waters. So EPA has been regulating stormwater in cities for over 30 years. 20 years ago, they started regulating small municipalities based on a definition of population and impervious cover. And Mashpee falls into a category of a small urbanized community. There are 206 such municipalities across Massachusetts, and they are authorized to discharge stormwater under the MS4 stormwater program. Both EPA and Mass DEP are jointly administering the program in Massachusetts. And if you see the little map inset there, you see that the entire town of Mashpee is now considered an urbanized area. Therefore, all the stormwater falls under that permit. The stormwater program basically consists of the town implementing measures that address the 6 areas listed above. I won't read them all off to you, but illicit discharge detection is basically looking to eliminate certain contaminants that could be in the stormwater system, like septic system overflows, some type of cross connections with washing machines, things like that. Construction stormwater runoff control is looking at erosion control and is usually addressed in the town's bylaws. And then good housekeeping and pollution prevention are everyday things that the different departments do in both their day-to-day operations, how they run their equipment, how they manage their facilities that might have certain chemicals or activities that could be introducing chemicals or erosion, and it's making sure that they are doing things in the most correct way. The other area of the permit is looking at areas of town, the surface water bodies that have either total daily maximum loads, and everyone is familiar with that terminology, I would think, from going through the wastewater process. Those are the areas shown in yellow on the inset map there, or impaired water bodies. Phosphorus is impaired in Ashumet and Santuit Pond, and the other impairments in Waquoit Bay have to do with nitrogen and bacteria. So Mashpee has been very active in this since 2003 under the original permit. They've been carrying out education in the public schools. They've been holding recycling and waste collection events. These are just a few things. The code has been updated to meet both the stormwater erosion, sediment and erosion control, as well as post-construction controls. Mashpee's done a great job focusing on eliminating nitrogen through standards set in the zoning code. They actively keep the streets clean, maintain the stormwater infrastructure, and as I mentioned before, Mashpee has an excellent watershed nitrogen management plan addressing those sensitive embayments and impaired waters. This is just a little sketch here showing kind of a demonstration project, which is one of the elements in the new plan that they're going to be looking for the town to offer up some demonstration projects, both for reducing nitrogen and phosphorus. And tonight, as Catherine mentioned, the most important thing is that we're here to get your blessing on us submitting a notice of intent for Mashpee to seek coverage under the new 2016 MS4 permit, which will go for the next 5 years. The notice of intent, which you all have a copy of, is basically the outline. It's the new bones of the program, and then it gets detailed in a stormwater management plan. And the stormwater management plan is the specifics of how and when the town will implement each one of the 6 minimum control measures. So the good news is that Mashpee has appointed, or we're looking for the board to appoint the Stormwater Task Force. We met on September 11th, and we reviewed the NOI. We made sure that all of the correct responsible parties, I'm going to say responsible departments, had been assigned to each one of the best management practices. And we began review of a draft stormwater management plan. So the town really has a year, they have till July 1, 2009 to finalize the stormwater management plan. But I think we'll get that job done much quicker, and in 2019 really begin to implement some important phases of the program. I forgot about this slide. That's just showing, again, the impaired waterways, Mashpee storm drainage system in the middle, which is all of the catch basins, and I can't quite see it here, but can you see the outfalls differentiated on that map? Anyway, I'll just skip that slide. And we're here also to get any questions from you. Not too much of a public, but if the public had any questions as well. And we would like to get both the task force appointed tonight, and we would love to get the NOI signed. We need 2 copies, one to go to EPA, one to the EP. They need to be wet signatures, and we're hand delivering everything on Friday. So we'll be a weekend ahead of the deadline date of October 1st. And that's really all that I had.
Thank you
for the presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
I first have a question for our town manager. I see the task force is made up of a health agent, town planner, natural resource conservation, DPW director. And do you want a representative of the Board of
I
Selectmen?
would recommend the assistant manager.
Okay, that's what I was thinking would be the best one appropriated for the job.
I don't do things like that, do you?
So we could nominate Wayne to be the Board of Selectmen's representative.
Why don't we set up the task force and leave it to the town manager to make the appointments
I think that would be a great idea.
with this membership?
I
So I'd make a
think
motion, we support we authorize the town manager through the DPW to submit the NOI, and that we create the management task
Task
force
force.
as created, subject to the appointments by the town manager.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 I have one question, though. Do we have any places where there's still direct discharge from roadway, town-owned roadways into a water body?
Yes. You have just a handful of outfalls. They're actually listed on page 2 of the NOI. It shows the number of outfalls left. This is a very, very small number of
Yeah.
outfalls.
Do we have a plan, Catherine, to get rid of these? Because the rest of this is such a low bar that, I mean, they spent 15 years coming up with these permit requirements, and it's like, seriously?
Right.
If you can't meet this test, you're not doing anything.
Right.
So, can we get, what's the plan to get rid of those?
So what we've historically been doing as we've done roadway, particular roads, resurfacing, reconstruction, we've addressed the outfalls. I think as part of the stormwater plan, we'll set a deadline for addressing all of them and not specifically tie them to a road project.
'Cause, I mean, that's the single biggest thing you can do to improve water quality
Right.
from road runoffs,
Right.
get those things out.
Just to point out, some of these are not within the town's control. So, you know, we'll try to identify and work with a homeowners association if there is one. But certainly
Right,
the
but at a
ones
minimum, having the public
within-
facilities not
correct.
directly discharging
Yes.
to public waterways would be a good start.
But it's, those two questions were my concern, such as associations. How do you maintain, who maintains those catch basins, who cleans them? You don't know. Do we take control of those? I mean, we're concerned about nitrogen loading. I just saw this last week at the county government, it's 9% of the nitrogen comes from stormwater. So with that being said, and I happened to be in a job site and I saw a catch basin that had no protection, and I look into the catch basin and I see the pipe, the corrugated pipe, and it was going right to the bay, which is only about maybe 100 feet away. So they were directing it clearly to the bay. And I just said, here we are, we're paying all this money to protect the bays, rivers, and estuaries with the wastewater treatment plants, and we're allowing this to, without redirecting it. I don't know what the potential, or how you're gonna do it. Is it vegetated swale, or I'm not quite certain, but I thought it should be taking place sooner rather than later, because it's something that's not gonna cost a whole lot of money, such as a wastewater treatment system.
Right.
So, but,
Do the cheap and easy stuff first.
Hmm?
Do the cheap and easy stuff first.
exactly.
And you can fund it through Chapter 90, and it's not a property tax bill.
You're right, I absolutely agree. Yeah,
It's true.
great,
Anyway.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Do you want us to sign?
You actually did vote, right? I know it was the first.
Yes, we did vote. Okay, discussion and approval of Verizon New England, Inc. and N-Star Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy Petition Plan, number MA 2018-35. 35 dated August 22nd, 2018, from Verizon New England, Inc. and N-Star doing business as Eversource, proposing to place one pole on the westerly side of Main Street to a point approximately 40 feet northerly an existing pole 4-49A. Poll hearing was held on, or will be held on September 24th, 2018 at 9 a.m.
Is this the thing up on 130 up where they're
Yes.
doing the
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
construction?
held the hearing.
The road.
Yeah, I held the hearing this morning. No one showed up except for Verizon. They're
Okay.
just moving the pole 40 feet at
They
that
don't want it in the
new.
middle of the driveway?
Didn't want it in the middle of the driveway.
I make a motion, we approve the poll as requested.
Second.
Roll call?
Yes.
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 Why with simple things like this do they have to go through
And I was
all
thinking the
this
same
hearing?
thing.
It's a
Right.
lot of time
Process is our
wasted.
best product.
They have hearings and
I
everything.
know, to move a pole out of a driveway. Okay, number 6, a discussion
The only
approval.
question that we received was whether or not anybody was going to have a disruption in power.
Oh, okay, and that's not the issue, okay. Discussion approval of appointment to the Mashpee Inclusion Diversity Committee. Louis Honer,
I make a motion, we appoint Louis Horner to the Inclusion Diversity Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2019.
Second.
roll call.
Yes.
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 Okay, any liaison reports
I
this
have
week?
one from the
Okay.
Community Preservation Committee. We're sending out 2 things. One, notice of availability for applications for CPC-funded projects for the Springtown meeting. I think that, Kathy, the deadline's November 1st? November 1st. So if anybody's interested in getting something on the Springtown meeting warrant, you have to get it to CPC by November 1st. And the second thing we're doing is we're sending out a memo to all departments, committees, asking for their best assessment of what potential needs they might have for CPC-related funds for 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. Just so we come up with a plan for CPC, and then it can feed into the conversation we're having with Dawn and her team. We start to see what people see as the need for CPC going forward versus weigh it against what's out there for the wastewater need, and try and gather information so we have a more informed conversation. So that memo went out, or will go out the next day or two, and again, ask people for feedback by November 1st.
I think you'll get any feedback on, I think it's nice to ask.
Gotta ask.
Yeah.
It's-
Gotta ask,
I'm
but,
curious to
then
see.
if we turn around and we tried to do something, and people say, well,
Get
you
asked.
had your chance to come forward, and we're sending it to every board and committee in town. So speak now, forever
Right.
hold your peace.
Right.
Great idea.
Anyone else? John? Okay, we need
I would make a motion that the board enter into executive session to discuss 2 items. First, the police chief's personal services contract, where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town. Second, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation in the matter of Littlefield versus U.S. Department of the Interior and related federal land and trust proceedings with respect to the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe real property, where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town per General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, from which we will not return to open session.
Thank you. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes.